Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chat. Not as good as 50 hours, but hey, it's something. Now, this episode, of course, is not really going to be, too hard-hitting. It's not like I'm going to say anything in this episode that is probably going to be that controversial, because, as you can tell, the main topic is kind of just an obvious hit piece for a left-winger, but, doesn't mean that it's any less notable, and I don't have to say this, but I am going to say it anyways. This is the first podcast I'm recording where I'm officially a card-carrying DSA member. I'm pretty sure I said it previously that I wouldn't join a group like this, but it's it makes sense to support DSA as it's the biggest socialist group in America, so, it would make sense to help them out. If you want socialism to grow, that's your best bet. I think it will be the only political group that I'm technically a part of, but even then, it's I'm mostly just paying the due. I don't really think I'll be doing much else for the organization, because I don't really see myself being helpful in any of the other aspects that they might need help. To quote a 2007 movie, I'm sorry that I'm not the guy with the megaphone, but this is what I do. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say in the opening, so let's get right into the news. First, we're going to be starting off with some foreign news. First, all the way to South Korea. Again, South Korea is entering the limelight because of something that is happening right now. Universal basic income could become a reality in South Korea under a presidential candidate who once likened himself to Bernie Sanders. The presidential candidate in question is Lee Jae-myung. Now, Lee is the candidate of the party that is called the Democratic Party of Korea. It is a center to center left-ish party that is essentially the dominant political party at the particular moment. However, as that article said, he has ran a campaign that is a bit different than what is traditionally in that party's purview. He ran a more left-wing populist candidacy, particularly in the aspects of UBI. I could probably make a video about the Korean presidential election itself, which I probably will, because I think this purview might actually make me pay attention a little bit to what's going on in South Korea's race. But it does seem that South Korea might be going into a different direction, because Lee, like I said, he's running a more left-wing populist candidacy as opposed to more moderate senses, and he beat a lot of prominent individuals that were part of the incumbent administration. He even beat a very popular mayor of a town called Seongnam, who implemented similar policies. But it does seem that he is more of the populist candidate, so we're probably going to be seeing a little bit more of him soon. On that same token of foreign news, turns out the Pandora Papers are actually going to be doing something, because the Chilean incumbent president, Sebastián Piñera, is going to be impeached, or at least faces potential impeachment, after what happened in the Pandora Papers. And I did see that Boric tweeted about it almost immediately when it happened. So I do think that, I'm not going to say that he will be impeached. I don't know if he will, and we haven't seen the process play out yet. But it does seem like Chile is going to be heading into a different direction. Chile is going to be I'm going to just say this now, I'm pretty sure that Chile is going to be the next pink tide government. I really do think so. The signs are going really well for Boric right now. He does face some problems. Jose Cast is rising in the polls, and he's rising to a very shirt-tugging amount. But, as far as we know right now, Boric seems to be doing fine. We'll have to wait until things play out. Polls do say that if it was him and Cast, a lot of people would overwhelmingly vote for him. In fact, Chile actually held a poll that literally said, out of all the potential presidential candidates, who would you never cast a ballot for? And the person that was overwhelmingly seen as the most unpopular candidate was Cast, with Artes, the far-left candidate, making a very slight, he was slightly under him. Or in this case, I guess you could say slightly over him, because a lot more people would vote for him than Cast. Speaking of voting in Latin America and potential pink tides, it does seem that I had misguided thing. Remember when I talked about Honduras and said that Honduras might not be having any major things going on? Well, it turns out I might have said that a little too soon, because in the Honduras presidential election, the presidential candidate Salvador Nasrallah has decided to suspend his campaign and instead endorse the leftist candidate of Xiomara Castro, even joining the campaign as her running mate. I mean, honestly, this makes me think that maybe this country might be getting a pink tide resurgence as well. Polls are now showing that she is tightening the race, and I have to say, color me impressed. I wouldn't mind seeing her as president of Honduras. I mean, yeah, I would absolutely like for one of the newer pink tide leaders to be a woman. I know that is kind of incredibly superficial, but it's like, yeah, think about it. If you think about the pink tide, there actually isn't that many women in the pink tide. It's really Michelle Blanchett and Cristina Fernandez Kirchner. That's literally it, if I remember correctly. Yeah, that is literally it. Xiomara Castro would be an interesting choice as well. I think she would be fine, because the original pink tide leaders were like Evo Morales, Hugo Chavez, fucking Nestor Kirchner, and Lula da Silva. But now a lot of those leaders are gone. And the newer ones are like AMLO, Alberto Fernandez, Luis Arce, and Boric and Castro might be next. Although many people seem to be souring on Fernandez now, so I'm going to have to look a bit more into that. But that's not here nor there at this particular moment. The next story we're going to be talking about is fossil fuel CEOs will testify about role in climate change denial before Congress. Later this month, 6 CEOs from major fossil fuel companies and trade associations will testify before Congress at a hearing about the industry's role in spreading climate change denial. This will be the first time oil and gas CEOs testify about the industry's decades-long disinformation campaigns before Congress. Top executives at ExxonMobil, BP, Chevron, and Shell, as well as the American Petroleum Institute and the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, are slated to testify. In the history of Congress, the fossil fuel executives have never come before the committee to explain climate and disinformation and address the climate crisis. That will change, Representative Ro Khanna, chair of the Oversight and Reform Subcommittee on the Environment, told the Washington Post. Color me impressed again. I really do believe that this is a really good thing. I, of course, want them to be held accountable, and I want them to face the music, essentially. I said the same thing twice, but oh well. I just want these guys to be held accountable for their actions. Climate denial, misinformation, and all this other stuff. In fact, I want them to be put on a congressional subcommittee based on just what's going on right now, of them polluting the air and stuff. And the fact that these people are being held accountable now is a good thing. A thing that seemed to not happen before. Remember, it hasn't happened before. This is going to be the first time that they're doing it. And I think it's partially because we have a louder voice in Congress. We have Roe, we have the Squad, we have all these other people. They're finally holding them accountable to what they need to be held accountable for. And I'd like to see this. The next stories are essentially going to be focusing on the 2022 midterms, because the 2022 midterms, as much as we keep forgetting, they're right around the corner. And a lot of things are boiling to make these potentially the most interesting midterms of them all. First, here's this one. Ron Watkins has been keeping busy in Arizona this week. Now, for those who don't remember, Ron Watkins is a prominent individual who worked on 8chan and is essentially considered the leader of QAnon. Many people have argued that he is QAnon, that he's the one who made up like the QAnon stuff, and that he is like QAnon, but of course he claims that he's not and that he received the information from QAnon. Well, apparently he has decided to potentially seek the office of Congress. Like, he's going to try and run for Congress at this particular moment. He sent a statement of interest implying that he would, and is more than likely going to, run for Congress. Now, this is essentially Donald Trump all over again, but in a different manner. What do I mean by that? Well, Donald Trump essentially was the rich a-hole that was like, I want to buy people in Congress. Fine, I'll just do it myself. And that's what Ron Watkins is doing. He sees all like the QAnon people like Lauren Boebert and not Madison Cawthorn probably, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Like he's seeing those people, but like, fine, I'll just do it myself. And it seems that the district that he might run in is Arizona District 1, which is actually a prominently well-known district. It's the one that Eva Putzova ran in, if I remember correctly. But we'll have to wait and see how that pans out, because as far as we know, it's just a statement, and he might not be interested at all. The next story is kind of an interesting one. John Yarmuth, an incumbent member of Congress, has chosen to not seek re-election. He is now joining 20 representatives in announcing their retirement from Congress. And it's not like he's like running for Senate against like Charles Booker or anything. Like he's retiring and he's done. There are a lot of other people who are retiring to run for Senate, like Val Dennings, Tim Ryan, Connor Lamb, Ted Budd, Billy Long, Vicky Harlitzer. I didn't even know that person was a thing. But anyways, many people are actually very perplexed by John Yarmuth's retirement. Well, I mean, not necessarily perplexed, more like, perplexed might be the right word. But his retirement did seem like a surprise. Like, it came out of nowhere that he was going to retire, even though he said that he had this big, ambitious plan for, like, the Biden administration. And his retirement actually made some people speculate. See, Yarmuth says that the reason why he wants to retire is because he's going to be 75 and that it would be best for him to spend his last leg of life as a grandfather to his grandkids. But a lot more people are trying to find a hidden meaning behind his retirement. And the biggest one being that him retiring may be an indication that Yarmuth does not believe that the Democrats will be retaining the House come 2022. That's one of the major things a lot of people have been speculating on, that in 2022, Democrats are just doomed to fail. They'll either just keep the amount of people they have in the Senate or lose some members of the Senate, especially considering a lot of Republicans are actually trying to bring out the big boys in this election. And there isn't really going to be any major gains in the House. So, like, basically people are speculating that they're either going to stay the same or they're going to lose. And they're speculating that Yarmuth sees this and that he's essentially trying to get out while he can. Do as much as he can in the remaining, like, term that he has. So that when next term comes around, he can officially say, like, I at least did everything that I planned to do in this time period. Now, I'm not really in the mood to speculate on 2022 or 2024 or anything of the sort. But essentially, things do seem to be coming to a big boiling point, as this seems to be an election cycle many people are fearful for. Many people are saying, like, if Democrats don't retain the House, then that could spell very bad things for 2024, especially considering a lot of the Republicans are playing dirty tricks to try and make the 2022 elections to their advantage, which might in turn make the 2024 election to their advantage as well, via gerrymandering and such. And this is getting a lot of people's attention, as now a bunch of anti-Trump Republicans are now planning to back vulnerable Democratic lawmakers in 2022. So Democrats in very close seats will be getting the endorsements of a group called the Renew America Movement, which is a group of centrist Republicans, like Bill Weld, who are trying to push for, like, people to try and bring people. It's sort of like the No Labels movement, but slightly more good. Like, No Labels really did seem like it really is just like corporatism. But, like, this group is trying to be like Republicans trying to save democracy. But essentially what they're doing is essentially just going to be backing a bunch of centrists. Like, here are their so-called renewers. Their plan is essentially to, like, back a couple of Democrats, back a couple of Republicans, and back a couple of independents. Just be like, we're showing that we're going to save democracy. And the people who do this are the people who they're endorsing are Abigail Spanberger, Adam Kinzinger, Andy Kim, Cindy Axney, Dan Newhouse, Elaine Larea, Elisa Slotkin, Evan McMullen, Fred Upton, Jamie Herrera Butler, Jared Golden, John Katko, Josh Gothmeyer, Lisa Murkowski, Liz Cheney, Mark Kelly, Matt Cartwright, Peter Maher, Susan Wild, Tom O'Halloran, and Tom Rice. I plan on backing none of these people, and I do not support this group. I guess I quote-unquote support the idea of, like, trying to save democracy, but it's like, I'd rather do it with socialists, so, sorry. But it appears that the far right is trying to push their own strategy as well. See, apparently, Trump is going around and telling people, if we don't solve the presidential election fraud of 2020, Republicans will not be voting in 2022 and 2024. It is the single most important things for Republicans to do. So, Donald Trump is literally telling his supporters that they will not be voting in 2022 and 2024 if the quote-unquote fraud of 2020 is not fixed. Okay, fine. Don't vote. Oh no, the far right won't vote for you. Oh no. It's ridiculous. Of course we don't want you to vote. That's the point. Keep doing this and I go away. There's not much else to say. That one was just made for funny. I just wanted to say that for funny. So anyways, now let's move on to the main topic of this video. We're going to be talking about a person by the name of Gavin McInnes, who also apparently has, like, connections with this Trump story. Well, not in that actual way, but you know what I'm talking about. First, who the heck is Gavin McInnes? Gavin McInnes is a Canadian writer, podcaster, and far-right political commentator. He's the host of Get Off My Lawn on the online platform Censored TV, which he founded. He co-founded Vice in 1994 at the age of 24. He relocated to the United States in 2001. In most recent years, he has drawn attention for his far-right political activism and his role as the founder of the Proud Boys, a neo-fascist organization designated as a terrorist group in Canada. As it states, he was the founder of the news organization Vice. For those who don't know what Vice is essentially like a punk news organization that is essentially like supposed to be like, it was founded as sort of like a politically incorrect and provocative content thing that was made during the .com bubble. And he was actually apparently the godfather of like hipsterdom. Like, he's been described as like one of the leaders of like the hipster movement. He has the stupid freaking mustache, the stupid beard. He basically invented the hipster look. And the thing is, he actually made it pretty, like, this is the thing. Many people were confused about his political views now, but actually, if you look at the interviews that he's done in the past, he does talk about, like, politics a decent bit. Here's one, like, in an interview he had in the New York Press in 2002, McInnes said that he was pleased that most Williamsburg hipsters were white. And then he later claimed that that was a prank to ridicule baby boomer media like the Times. After his tenure on Vice ended for reasons, because Vice started getting a little bit more mainstream and he started being like, no thanks, he sort of took up a brief period of acting. He even appeared on the Aqua Teen Hunger Force spin-off Soul Quest Overdrive, which is really weird. He also started changing, like, he created a website called Street Carnage, and he co-founded an advertising agency called Rooster. However, he would eventually leave that because they found out that there was a publication that he wrote titled Why Transphobia is Perfectly Natural, which sparked a boycott of Rooster, and they said, like, okay, bye-bye. And it was after that that he basically started shifting further and further to the right. Basically, like, and that was the big thing. Like, as you could tell, he was, like, hiding about the fact, like, oh, see, this is just a joke. I'm making edgy jokes. But as the show, like, as he went on, it started becoming apparent, wait, these aren't jokes. Like, he worked for Rebel Media, was a frequent regular on Alex Jones's show, and basically, like, When he left Rebel Media in 2017, I know I'm jumping all over the place, but bear with me, he declared he was going to be the multimedia Howard Stern meets Tucker Carlson, where he then began posting, like, his podcast, Get Off My Lawn. However, things didn't end up truly going into overdrive until he made a little-known thing called the Proud Boys, which was made around the same time as, like, all the other drama and jazz. Now, he founded it, and the thing is, he sort of had this organization as a subgroup that had existed for a long period of time, but then he officially organized it into a organization in 2016. Now, the first thing you might be wondering is, why the heck is it called the Proud Boys? Well, very simple. The name is derived from the song Proud of Your Boy, which was made for the film Aladdin, but was cut out and then put back into the 2011 musical adaptation. Because in the song Aladdin, he's like saying to his mom, like, don't worry, you'll be proud of your boy one day. But McInnes interpreted the song as Aladdin being mad that he was born a boy and that he's like trying to hide his truly manlish nature and blah blah blah. But it's not at all what it means. The song is supposed to be about him being like, I'm sorry that I'm like a person who robs people instead of like doing something really big and productive. Now, the Proud Boys was a little bit different than some other groups of its variety. You see, this group, like, while other groups try to pretend like, oh, we're not trying to do bad things, and like then do bad things on the side, the Proud Boys, as the name suggests, were proud of the fact that they did a lot of things. They were proud of the fact that they harassed and committed political violence. McInnes has actually been on the record saying political violence gets a bad rap. The Proud Boys was actually sort of meant to try and tap into a group that, like, it was made to tap into the men's rights groups. Now, many of you might not even know what men's rights groups are, or MRA. Men's rights groups, or MITGAO, I think it's another thing that they say, I don't know what the acronym stands for, but men's rights people are sort of like these like really sad, depressed, lonely white kids that don't feel as manly as they should be, then instead of becoming inherently like really, really manly. However, instead they sort of become like male chauvinists. Like, and that's what the group stands for. It's anti-feminist, it's anti-LGBTQ rights, it's anti-Semitic, it's chauvinist, it's Islamophobic, it's Trumpist, and it's neo-fascistic. Now, the thing about it is that he, like, McInnes openly says, like, he's a Western chauvinist, so, like, it's definitely, that he's pretty obvious about that. But notice one group that it's not. It is not white supremacist. And the Proud Boys are actually very notable with that. Many of their prominent members are not white. Their current leader is Enrique Tarrio, who is that name suggests that he's not white, obviously. He is an Afro-Cuban and was head of the Latinos for Trump movement. Enrique Tarrio was actually in the news recently because it was revealed that he was an informant for the FBI during this time period. But the thing is, the group, it's like as a show, it's not white supremacist, but it's like in a way it's like, we're not white supremacists. Wink. It used to be openly part of the alt-right, but then after Charlottesville, the alt-right, like, he was like, bad idea. And that's why he went through this whole rebrand of, like, the Proud Boys are not white supremacists, even though they literally push for the white genocide conspiracy theory. Now, the thing is, the Proud Boys is actually sort of falling apart recently. No, in large part due to the fact that Tarrio was apparently an FBI informant, but also because just generally with the fall of, like, the topple and fall of, like, the Trump movement, and when I say topple and fall, of course, they're still around, but it's like, it's not as powerful as it once was. But as that started falling, the Proud Boys started gaining less prominence. I mean, they had that peak, but after the Capitol Hill riots, it seems that just this kind of movement isn't really panning out. They've been declared a terrorist organization by Canada, and things really are not going so well for them. Like, I mean, Charlottesville was a huge fault for the alt-right movement as it was. The alt-right, like, I remember when the alt-right was, like, really well known. Like, everybody on the online, like, they knew an alt-right figure, they saw the alt-right just right there. But then after Charlottesville, the alt-right basically crashed and burned. The same thing can be said for this type of group. Like, the Proud Boys essentially started crashing and burning after the January 6th insurrection, because a lot of people were arrested for that, but also, like, the group has actually started wondering what the heck is going on with that. Many state affiliates of the Proud Boys have actually distanced themselves from, like, leadership of the Proud Boys due to their handling of it, because when a bunch of Proud Boys were sent to jail due to the Capitol riots, you know, the Proud Boys wanted to sort of distance themselves from that. But, of course, you can't really distance yourself from that and also be of this viewpoint of, like, we're going to take back our country and we're going to fight the evil Marxist people. Like, you can't really do both. You're going to either alienate any potential future people to join you, or you are going to, like, push the people who currently subscribe to your alt-right narrative. Like, a bunch of these alt-right people, they are, like, fully on board with the idea of taking over the United States and becoming a fascist dictatorship. When the Proud Boys says, like, no, we didn't participate in that at all, now all of a sudden they don't want to be part of the Proud Boys no more. But if you tell any future Proud Boys, yeah, we did participate in that, the people who might not be as radicalized might not be on board with that. Because I guarantee you, if literally it was discovered, like, if every single alt-right figure was open about the fact that they were a white supremacist since day one, the alt-right would have went nowhere. You have to slowly radicalize the people before you get on board with that idea. Same thing with left-wing stuff. You can't jump out of it all at once. That's not how it works. You have to slowly bring the people to your side. I know many people are going to take this comparison out of context, but bear with me. That's what, like, these communist people don't get. They think, oh, we just say communism and people come to us. No, you'd have to bring the people slowly to your side by radicalizing them. That's how it works. You have to radicalize someone, they have to de-radicalize them, and then if you want to keep pushing them to the left, you have to radicalize them some more. That's just objectively how you do it if you actually were serious about trying to bring people to your side. Another thing about the Proud Boys is that they have a huge connection with Roger Stone, which has led to a lot of people speculating about his role with, like, the Proud Boys in regards to the Capitol Hill riots. And it looks like the Proud Boys are starting to crumble. But of course, McInnes is still sort of sticking around, albeit in a lesser quantity. You see, McInnes, much like a lot of other figures, was just way too radical for platforms, and he disappeared. Like his Twitter, his YouTube, and his Facebook are, like, gone. And he now has to basically do all of this stuff on his own website. And that's the big thing with a lot of these alt-right figures. They either just disappear forever, or they try to rebrand. And McInnes doesn't look like he's rebranding. He's basically openly expressed that he's a white supremacist at this point, which may be news for his wife, who is a Native American, she's a Native American, although I guess technically him supporting her because he's a Western chauvinist is, like, I guess that makes sense. But it's weird because she's apparently a liberal Democrat, and I don't really see why you would support and marry a white supremacist. Like, I mean, I get to a degree marrying someone or being in a relationship with someone with some differing political views, but it's like, really? That much? There really isn't much else for me to say about Gavin McInnis that hasn't been said already, because he's basically a done subject at this point. I only did this because I had him on the wheel and I need to get rid of a lot of the list to make room for new people to talk about thoughts on. The next thoughts on is going to be on someone who's a lot more relevant and is on the left. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that bell to be notified when a future video of mine comes out. And if you're interested in more content from me, you can go to my website, follow me on Twitter, join my Discord, check out my articles in the Independent Political Report, or consider supporting me on Patreon.